The main differences between a normal equalizer and an analog equalizer plugin are two. The first one is the algorithm, and the second one is the shape of the curve. With Patcher I can't change the algorithm because I'm using the parametric EQ from FL Studio, but I can shape the frequency response of the curve for every knob. That's what I've done to simulate an analog EQ that you can use in your own project. You can download it, you can find it in the video description, but I suggest you to take a look to the video so you can understand better what's going on. Let's do it. Let's try it, let's listen what this EQ does, and then we go inside the plugin to understand what's going on.
Showing off what you think you found. There's a lot of truth behind what you take, a lot of promises that you build then break. I've been climbing up this road for too long now. Is there any way to let me float? Clung to perceptions, not at all just invention. Is there any way to let me out? I am who I am, don't need a new. If wanted.
You can feel every time I moved a knob, you don't have the classical plugin sound of an EQ with just one point that it got boosted, but the shape of the frequency sound way more natural, and this is what analog EQ are very useful too, because when you change something you can feel the shape, the sound to be natural and doesn't sound too much artificial, and this will ruin the mood of the song. But let's see what has happened inside this EQ. There are a lot of stuff that's going on, but mainly I use three different parametric EQ for each band. So let's start with this one, with this EQ is only for the lower frequencies, so you can see what I was talking about. We have usually when you bump only one frequency or maybe two, the response is very linear. With this one something more interesting is happen. So now I'm going down the natural part in point 0, let's say, of this EQ, and you can see when you enable the EQ we have already small differences. This is very close on what preamp or some analog EQ does. They already have some change just with nothing touched. When we add some bass, you can see we are not just shaping one of these points in a linear way, but something very interesting is happening. Some point goes up, some one goes down, and at the same time there are movement even between the frequencies, because you can see in example right now we have a bump on this part around 300 frequency, I think, and when we go down the starting point is 400, so the more you boost the bass and the more go on the lower part of the spectrum, at least for this part. And you also have a little cut on 180. Then we have a mid frequencies. So when you go down, you are just cutting in a very natural way this part of the spectrum, so there are not steep curve, but everything is very smooth. And when we boost the mid, you can see we are boosting some mid frequencies and cutting a little bit in a very sweet way the lower part of that frequencies. And this is interesting not only for this one, but also because you are gonna play a part with these two combination, because you have in this example we are boosting, this is very extreme anyway, so let's go more in a more natural position. We have this part of the curve, and you may don't want this to be too much pronounced, so we have a little cut there, and then the sound will shape it in an interesting way. Let's go a little more natural. And then we have the higher part of the frequencies, and you can see the last two knobs use the last parametric EQ. You can see how this band is shaped. We have three bands that are working on only with one knob. We move three bands in this case. And you can see an example, you can shape the higher frequency response just with this one, or the air is an high shelf on this one. The first three knobs are more complicated, while the air is just a natural high shelf, but you can shape a little bit the curve of the high hand. So an example, you can go a little bit down to cut this part of the frequencies, then add some hair so you can have more space in this part of the spectrum but give to the sound more hair, or the opposite, you can enhance a little bit the high hand and cut a little bit the very higher frequencies, so you have a very interesting shape. If you take a look on other plugins that simulate an analog unit, or in any case try to be something like this one, you can really see the same kind of curve you can see with this EQ. The difference is because this one is free, you can download it and use it. I've also made other patchwork videos, look in my channel, you can find them too. See you next time, ciao!